purpose of this demo here today is to give a quick overview of the latest version of ScanForce called ScanForce Omni. What you're looking at here is an emulation of a TC70. It's a Zebra device, formerly Motorola, that is rugged, designed for warehouse use, has a full color touchscreen, and also the ability to have a pistol grip where you can pull a trigger to shoot a barcode out of the top of the device here. Throughout this demo, you'll see me navigating with the mouse, but also utilizing the device itself. And if you look down here in the bottom, you'll see a white dot. That's where my finger is touching the screen of the device that I'm holding. What we'll do today is go through the basic transactions that comprise of warehouse automation. Those are receipt of goods, so we automate purchase order, receipt of goods. In inventory, ScanForce automates physical counts, transfers, issues, and receipts. Today we'll just hit on the inventory counts and also transfers. And then finally we'll finish up with the sales order shipping or picking transaction that we have. The nice thing about ScanForce is that it does utilize wireless connectivity to pass data back and forth, but does not require that connection at all times. I'll point out throughout the demo where you need to be in wireless and where you don't, and this gives the user complete flexibility. If the network goes down or they happen to walk into an area that is not covered, they'll still get instant data validation and even data lookups. When you launch ScanForce on the device, this is the first screen that you would see. It's going to prompt you for a user. You can enter a password, and it also supports multiple companies within Sage. You can choose a different user by utilizing the drop-down. And if you have it password protected, you can go ahead and enter that in. And the benefit of doing that is that multiple people can share devices, and you don't have to worry about someone logging in with someone else's permissions. Permissions are tied to that user, which are maintained within the ScanForce module. This does not take up additional Sage licenses, nor does it actually take up additional ScanForce licenses. Our licensing is tied to the device itself. This simply allows you to control who is allowed to do what within our programs. I don't have a password set for this, so I'm simply going to tap on the Accept button, which launches my main menu. Where I'll begin is at the receipt of goods, as that's the first point of entry of an item into your system. We're going to assume we have a purchase order in our Sage system, and now those items have arrived on the receiving dock. We need to get those into our system. On the scanner, what you would do is simply launch order processing and then PO receiving. At this point, the device is going to prompt me for a purchase order number. I can key that in. I could even utilize my lookup, which will connect up wirelessly and display all the POs that are available for receiving. In the search field there, I could start typing in the PO number or the vendor's name, and it would filter that down for me to choose the purchase order. However, the simplest way that most of our customers use this is to scan a barcode. And the way they accomplish that is when printing off a purchase order, they utilize the forms within Sage or the Azalea fonts and Crystal forms to print off a barcode for the purchase order number. That allows you to quickly and easily scan a barcode, and it connects up, grabbing that information for that purchase order and immediately placing that on the device. That's key because it does connect up to the wireless network there, but once that information is on the device, if I lose my connectivity and I'm scanning an item and I happen to scan or key in an incorrect item, I still get instant data validation telling me that's not an item on this purchase order. When I scan a valid item, it's going to display a little bit of information for me here. It's going to show me the unit of measure that was on the purchase order, and we do support multiple units of measure for items, referencing back to your Sage system. If we display the quantity here, so it shows me that I've received in 0 out of the 40 on the purchase order, leaving me a balance left of 40 here. I also see the item description in the warehouse that I'm receiving into. Now, if the item itself is barcoded, you can simply scan that barcode. And if it happens to be a barcode from your vendor that does not match your actual item number, we do support and recognize the alias numbers back in Sage. So if that item is set up as an alias number, then you can go ahead and scan that barcode and it will recognize it as your part number. We even have the ability to allow the user to create that alias at the time of receiving. That's beneficial and used when maybe you're buying from multiple vendors and one of them happens to change the barcode on their product. It's still the same item to you, but now you're not able to scan that barcode. If you have that enabled to create that alias right at the receipt of goods, you can then save that right as you're scanning it in. Another thing we validate along with that item number is the quantity. So if the user happens to just have the proverbial fat fingers and hits an extra 0, the device is going to recognize that, and there's two options here. You can have it set the way my demo is now, where it simply warns me but allows me to accept that quantity, or that could be locked down and would simply tell the user you're not able to over-receive, and you would simply have to say OK. Once you enter the appropriate quantity, it will go through prompting you for the next item. If you have the ScanForce labeling software, that is also integrated on the scanner programs here, where it would then prompt me to print a label. So for items that aren't barcoded, what you can do is not only barcode that purchase order number on that PO that you print off, but also barcode the items. That allows you to quickly and easily scan a barcode, and then in conjunction with our labeling software, print off barcode labels now so that item has a barcode to scan for future transactions. With that program, we're also looking back to item maintenance in Sage, where you can indicate whether you want to have an item set up for label printing under the additional tab, where you can say print receipt labels, yes or no. If it's set to no, our scanner is not going to prompt for it. If it's set to yes, it'll prompt. So you can continue through receiving your items. When you're done, hit your Send Data button, which is up at the top here. It shows me how many records I've collected. It also shows me unresolved lines. Unresolved lines would be a line where I didn't either receive any quantity or the quantity that I received in was less than the quantity on the PO. What happens here is you're warned if you try to send your data about unresolved lines, and then you can continue to send them over. If you've under-received an item, standard Sage backordering processes would kick in. So if you have backordering turned on, it would backorder that quantity you didn't receive in. This is a great feature because if it was a data entry error and you did actually receive those items in, it gives you one last chance to check that before you send it back to Sage. If everything looks good and you send back, it's going to connect up wirelessly and send that data back to your Sage system. Our automatic import will grab that and then place it into the appropriate data entry, which in this case is PO receipt of goods. Now, if you happen to be outside of wireless and you go to send your data, you don't have to worry about losing any of that data. It'll simply tell you unable to connect to the host, and it'll store that for you so you can send that later. When it imports back in, with batch processing enabled, it's going to import into the last ScanForce batch not marked private. If there isn't a batch, it would go ahead and create one for you. Another option is to have it create a batch per user, and we have enhancements that allow you to do things such as creating batches ahead of time, and then the handheld would actually prompt you what batch you want to import into, so you can specify that on the device. And we call that batch select. Moving on to the next transaction, we'll get back to our main menu here and tap on inventory transactions. The first one here is physical count. So the options within our physical count program are you can allow the users to only scan items that are already frozen. So you freeze your items back in your Sage system and then you go count them. If you try to scan an item that's not frozen, it won't allow you. Or you can allow the user to scan any item and it'll trigger the item freeze upon import. Either way, the prompts still display the same on the scanner here. You launch the program, indicate your warehouse that you're going to count. All of your warehouse codes that are set up in Sage do display here for you. So you can choose a different warehouse if need be. Then you go through and start scanning items. Now, within any of our programs, including the receiving that I just showed, you can have it set with what we call auto increment. What that does is each time you scan a valid item, it's going to count it as a quantity of 1 and just keep accumulating that quantity for you, forcing you to scan every single item. The common way, though, is to scan the item, then key in the quantity. So go up, scan your item, enter the quantity that you counted, and continue on. Our programs also support and recognize the valuation of the item back in Sage Item Maintenance, meaning if you have that valued as a lotted or serialized item, we know to prompt for that data as well. So in this example, if I were to scan a lotted item, enter my quantity, it now is going to prompt me to capture a lot number. Now, I can distribute all of that quantity at once to that one lot, or if it's broken down among several lot numbers, I can enter, for example, 5 here, and it'll continue to prompt me for lot numbers until I've distributed that entire quantity. When you're done, simply send your data back to your Sage system, connects up wirelessly, and imports back to physical count entry. So you no longer have to sit there keying in all that data. It simply shows up right into that data entry. Also, if an item is counted more than once, it'll also do that math for you and put that in as one line entry in physical count entry. Getting back to my inventory menu here, I'm going to tap on inventory transfers next. This is moving items from one warehouse to the next. So once again, you choose your warehouse. So let's say we're moving it from warehouse 000 over to 001. When I hit accept, it'll hold that warehouse information so I don't have to continue to enter that. I can simply scan an item now, key in the quantity that I'm transferring, and continue. When I'm done, send it to Sage, connects up, and imports back into my Sage system. Now another feature that ScanForce offers is an automatic posting. ScanForce is great because it's very scalable. You can have it be as real-time as you want it to. One transaction that you can auto-post would be inventory transfers. So that transaction I just sent there can either go back and sit in data entry and wait for someone to post it, or with our auto-post functionality, that would happen real-time. That transfer would automatically update or post upon import. And the same holds true for our PO receipt of goods program. That can also be set to auto post. Now, at the beginning, I mentioned we also have inventory issues and receipts. I'm not going to show these today, but really quickly hit on those. Receipts, for example, bypasses purchase order and simply puts items into inventory. You're not going to be able to track who you purchased them from. It's just going to import them right back into your inventory transaction entry as a receipt. Inventory issues goes into the same area in Sage back in item maintenance there. Back in inventory transactions. And issues allows you to capture what items you're relieving from inventory. We have the option within our software where if you're not prompting for a GL account, it'll take the default GL account back in Sage. However, you could also give the user the capability of indicating which GL account they're using. In that scenario, we provide you with a user-defined table where you pull over only the GL accounts that you want available on the scanner. You also get a chance to rename the description for that will only display on the scanners. The final part of the program I wanted to show here today is the shipping or picking of a sales order. So once again, we're going to get into order processing, and you'll see there's two options here, SO picking and SO shipping. SO picking allows you to stage orders over time, where you can simply scan a portion of it one day, scan more the next day, and you'll be able to see what you picked previously. You can also have multiple people pick that order. I can start picking it, and then the next day someone else could, for example, pick that order right up, and they'll see what I've already done. It writes back to a UDF we provide you in sales order entry, where it indicates the quantity picked. If you're tracking lot or serial numbers, it will also allocate those lot or serial numbers to that sales order for you. You still need to go ahead and invoice that order, and that's what sales order shipping does. It does that in one step. It'll either import it back to shipping data entry and invoice data entry, or simply invoice data entry. So let's go into sales order shipping here. Similar to our purchase order program, it's going to prompt for an order and then items. In this instance, it's referencing back to a sales order. So you can print off a picking sheet and even place a barcode for that order number on that. Scan your order number, connects up wirelessly, grabs the data, starts scanning items. If I scan an item that maybe looks like the right item, but I've just accidentally grabbed the wrong one, the second I scan that, I'm going to get a validation error. Whether I'm connected or disconnected, I still get that instant data validation. I also have the ability to look up items, and this is true in the receiving program as well. If I do a lookup here, I'm only going to see the items that are on this order. And as these items are picked or shipped, they drop off of this lookup. And as I mentioned, the same thing happens on the receiving side there. If I did a lookup, only the items that are left to receive in would show up here. So as I go through and scan my items, I get a valid item, displays the description, quantity summary, unit of measure, indicate my quantity here. If I try to pick too many, this is set with the other option that I mentioned at receiving, where it just locks you down and doesn't allow you to continue. But this could also be set to allow the user to continue with the quantity indicated and simply just warn them. Once you pick the appropriate quantity, it'll continue to ask you for items. Enter your quantity. When done, send back to Sage. Once again, you have your records that are collected and also unresolved lines. And this one really can help out a lot, more so even than receiving. If you accidentally had indicated for the one item there, instead of indicating that I picked 22, I simply indicate 2. Now I've picked 22, but my scanner only recognizes that I've indicated 2 there. It'll capture that as an unresolved line, and when I go to send the data, it'll alert me to that so that I have a chance to correct that. And that's important because in that scenario I just described, the customer would get all 22 of them, but you would only invoice them for 2. This again gives you one last chance to correct that. When you're done though, send your data over, connects up wirelessly, and again it'll import into either invoice data entry or shipping data entry. We also have the option to capture package tracking information and separating items out by package, recognizing what's in shipping data entry back in Sage for packages. And that's the basic demo for ScanForce Warehouse Automation for Omni.